everybody, I'm Jari Chin, and today I'll be going through an AP overview. So basically, we'll be going through general information about AP as well as any sort of like specific classes later. So as I said, I'm Jari Chin. I am a rising junior, meaning I'm going into 11th grade, and I've taken 4 AP classes so far through my years of high school. I'm very glad to be here today, and I hope you find some of this information useful and or interesting. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or use the raise hand feature, and I will try to get to all your questions. So here's a summary of what we will be going through today. So first we'll go through like general AP information and stuff you would probably need to know about AP, and also some specific classes. So as I said, I've taken 4 AP classes, and these are the 4 that I've taken, so I know a little bit more about them. So they're AP Psychology, Computer Science Principles, Biology, and Physics C Mechanics. So starting with general AP information. What is AP? So AP stands for Advanced Placement, and it was created by the College Board, which is a nonprofit organization that has a lot of things to do with college. They do AP as well as any SAT testing and also some college outreach programs. So AP offers college level courses and exams to high school students, meaning the difficulty of these classes is usually around the difficulty of an introductory college class on this subject. So right now there are 36 different AP courses, and an AP course usually consists of the AP exam as well as the AP class as well as the national AP exam. So if I say AP exam anywhere in this presentation, I am referring to the national exam that everybody takes. Everybody takes at the same time. So of course, there are exceptions to taking the class and the exam. So some people might only take the exam because they don't have enough room in their schedule for the actual class, or their school just doesn't offer the class in general. So they will have to study on their own and then take the exam. Otherwise, they might only take the class, meaning they don't want to take the exam or there's no need for them to take the exam. For example, any 12th graders who are already done applying for college and just want the credit in their classes. So why you should take AP classes. So first things first, it might count as a college credit. This is because, like I said, the difficulty is on the level of a college introductory class. So once you get to college, if you show you have proficient skill in this class, like getting a really good score on the exam and or like doing well in the class in general, the college may take it as a credit. This means that you won't have to pay for taking the class from actually being in college, and you save your time as you don't have to relearn information you already know. Of course, this is not always true because some colleges, for example, like Ivy Leagues or other big schools, they might want you to be more proficient or a little bit more skilled in this subject. So they might want to make you retake the class. This is also typically a GPA booster because AP classes are typically harder than normal classes. Most high schools will add a weight to this class, meaning the GPA may be higher. Like an AP class might have a GPA of 5, a highest GPA of 5, while a normal class has a normal GPA of 4. But it depends on your high school and how they organize GPA things. So I hear a lot that people don't like taking AP classes because they're afraid it will drop their GPA, since of course these classes are harder, meaning that it would be harder to get an A, and therefore if you get a B, your GPA will drop. So I like to say in general, taking any advanced classes is good for you because firstly, it allows you to learn more things, get more knowledge, but it also lets you, even if you do get a not as good grade as you would if it was a lower level class, colleges can see what classes you take. And if they see that you're challenging yourself in using the resources like AP classes provided to you, they will more likely choose you than another student who has a higher GPA possibly, but less of a, but they don't have any like high level classes. I've heard this from a lot of like any like college admissions programs, or like when you go to see like colleges and whatever, and they say this a lot. So here's a list of every single AP class that is offered at the moment. The 4 that I will be talking about later are highlighted in blue. So as you see there, capstone, arts, Englishes, history, social sciences, math and computer sciences, sciences in general, and world languages and cultures. So there's a special category here, which is the first one that I said, which is capstone. Capstone is a bit special, and I'll be talking about it in detail later, but it contains the 2 classes of AP Research and AP Seminar. So, like I said before, the AP exam, the AP course consists of the AP class and the AP exam. So here I'll be talking about the AP exam. So it costs around $100. Last year it was $94, but it's always somewhere in that range. The format of the AP exam is different for different classes. So like the AP, like in the diagram shows, the AP exam consists of a multiple choice portion, and it also consists of another portion that is either free response, written and speaking, or create performance task. So the free response portion is just tested alongside with the multiple choice, and basically what happens is that you have a question and you need to answer it in a couple sentences or a short paragraph format. The written and speaking is also usually tested alongside the multiple choice, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's writing stuff and speaking into a computer so that people can judge you on how proficient you are. This category usually applies to any foreign languages that you might take. And then there's the create performance task, which is some sort of project in relation to the class that you're taking. So the create performance task is usually applies to really a lot of any arts that you might be taking or computer sciences. So the AP exam. The national AP exam results will not affect your GPA. This is because these exam results come out around mid-July, which is basically after all schools have ended, so it can't actually affect any of your grades that you have in school. Also, colleges don't see your AP exam results unless you send them in to try to get credits for a class. This can either be a good thing or a bad thing, however you take it. Colleges do see if you did take the class though, because it's in your transcript, as I showed before. So a note is that AP scores do cost money to send in, so you just need to keep that in mind. So it's $15 for normal or $25 if you're in a rush to send it in. So this is how the AP exam is scored. For most classes, it's on this grade equivalence that is shown here. So if you get a 5, you're very qualified, and it's like an A. And for getting a 3 and above is what counts as passing an AP exam. If you get a 2 or a 1, there's basically it's not a very good score, and you will probably need to retake the class. So the AP exam schedule is formatted specifically so that it's taken on the same day across the U.S., but all at local time. It's different for people around the globe, but this is for U.S. specifically. So, for example, if we're taking AP biology, somebody in California would take it at 8 a.m. Pacific time, while somebody in New York would take it at 8 a.m. Eastern time. But it's always on the same day. So normally testing should be administered in schools over the course of 4 weeks in May. So the first 2 weeks are normal testing, and it covers all the subjects, while the second 2 weeks are late testing, and they're also tested at school. So the late testing usually applies to any students who have like scheduling conflicts. For example, they have like IB testing on the same day as an AP testing, or they have like some sort of emergency so that they can't test on that day. But again, most people test during the first 2 weeks. So this year there was an additional digital exam. So that means you could take your exam at home or at school through the online format, and it tested all of the same content, but without cheating, with cheating limitations. So for example, when you had the multiple choice section, there was no going back once you finished a question, and there are other limitations like that. So this is just some extra information. What I said previously was some extra information, but next year the exam schedule should be back to normal, considering that the COVID situation should be better. So on the right, you can see a picture of this year's exam schedule for the first 2 weeks of the testing period. So now we'll be moving on to capstone diploma. I mentioned earlier that we would be talking about this in a little more detail. So capstone is a diploma program where you have to have a couple certain classes. Like I said, AP Seminar and AP Research. So AP Seminar is taken 1 year, while AP Research is taken the next. You have to take the class and also pass the exam on both of these. Furthermore, you also have to take 4 AP exams throughout high school, so they can be any time as long as it takes during the high school years, and you also have to pass all 4 of these classes. If you aren't able to get all 4 of these AP classes done, but you do AP Seminar and AP Research, then you get the AP Seminar and Research certificate. So here you can see what is included inside of the AP Seminar and Research class. So of course you have your exam, but you also have a research project, which you need to do a presentation and an academic paper on. So this research project can be about anything that you would like, but it has to be different from AP Seminar and AP Research. So you have to do this research project in both of these years. Like I said previously, you have to take AP Seminar 1 year and AP Research the next. So you can either take them 10th grade and 11th grade, or then AP Seminar 11th grade and AP Research 12th grade. So the benefits is that you get a cool looking diploma like shown on the left, but also it helps prepare you for college. Because of all of that presenting, researching that you had to do for this diploma, you can do better in college because now you have the experience under your belt. It also increases your chances of being recognized by colleges because they know you had to prepare for this this diploma, and they know you had to work for it, so they know how much it's worth, and it can go on your resume. Like I said, it takes 2 years to complete, so you have to plan your time wisely. So, AP Classroom. Now, AP Classroom is a resource for all AP classes. This means that all AP classes have this feature, and you can go in and get all of this information. So, first thing that it provides is it provides a turn-in spot for your Create Performance task. Like I said, the Create Performance task is a project, so this is just only for certain classes. But for every single other class, it has like practice exams and videos that goes over all the content that you learn in this class, as well as previous exams and the questions and the answer keys. It also has this very important PDF called the Course and Exam Description that basically goes over everything that you learned or need to learn in the course, as well as what will be on the exam. It also includes a couple exam questions and the answer keys for that. So now I'll be moving on to the specific AP classes that I've taken in my years. So the first one we'll be talking about is AP Psychology. So starting off with some statistics on this class. So in 2020, 71.3% of test takers passed the exam. 22.4% of test takers got a score of 5. So psychology is typically seen as one of the easier AP classes because the material is fairly easy to learn, even though there is quite a bit of it. So most people take psychology as one of their first AP classes, which I did. Most people in my school take it sophomore year, which is 10th grade, which is also like an earlier year in high school, but I did take it freshman year because it was offered. So on the right, you can see a distribution chart of how the scores were for the past 3 years, or from 2018 to 2020. So you can see how the scores are pretty even from 1 to 5. So about 20% of every year gets a score of 5, and then it sort of varies along the way, but that's usually how it is. So here are all the contents of the AP Psychology course. The percentages on the side are how much they are tested for during the AP exam, but in general, so Unit 1 is Scientific Foundations of Psychology. Unit 2 is Biological Basis of First Behavior. Then it's Sensation and Perception, Learning, Cognitive Psychology, Developmental Psychology, Motivation, Emotion, and Personality, Clinical Psychology, and finally Social Psychology. So all of these 9 units will be learned during your course, and you can see, again, the percentages on the side. So in the AP Psychology exam, there are 2 parts. There's a multiple choice question part, which is usually shorthanded to MCQ, and a free response question, which is usually shorthanded to FRQ. So you have 100 questions with 70 minutes to finish them, meaning you have less than a minute to finish each question. And it's worth 2/3 of the final grade, meaning it's weighted a little bit more and it's a little bit more important than the free response portion. So the FRQ portion has 2 questions that you need to answer. It has question 1, which is concept application, and then question 2, which is research design. This takes 50 minutes and is worth 1/3 of your final grade. So both of these questions are usually split into 7 or 8 parts. So as shown on the right, there's a question that is a research design question. It has 7 parts with questions like finding the dependent variable and like supporting hypotheses, as well as a couple of vocabulary terms. So usually in the research design question, there is a graph in all of these questions that I previously just said. So for question 1, concept application, it usually gives you a situation like at the top of the question shown on the right, and then it gives you a couple of like 7 or 8 vocab words that you have to define and apply to that situation. So these questions, the concept application and research design, can be in any order. It doesn't necessarily have to be concept application and then research design. So now on to AP Computer Science Principles. It is a part of the Math and Computer Science section. Okay, so in 2020, 71.6% of test takers passed the exam, and 10.9% of test takers got a score of 5. So this is one of the easier classes in the science category. So you're coding in this class because it's computer science, there's coding. It's all through Python and block coding, but also it kind of depends on what your teacher likes to teach. Sometimes there's Java, but it is mostly Python and block coding. This class teaches primarily on the basics of coding and like troubleshooting. So that's what you'll basically learn. In my school, most kids take this class in their sophomore year as well, 10th grade. So it is also during the beginning of high school. So as you can see on the right, there's a score distribution over 3 years. So this graph is quite different from the previous psychology graph. Only around 10% or a little bit more of students get a 5, while most people get a score of 3. So even though this is an easier science, the scores show that you still have to be fairly proficient to get a good score. So here are the big ideas of this course, which are creative development, data, algorithms and programming, computer systems and networks, and impact of computing. So as I said previously, the percentages on the right are just how much this, approximately how much this subject or this portion is tested in the exam. So the AP Computer Science Principles exam has two parts as well. Well, all of them have two parts, but it has a multiple choice and a create performance task. So for the multiple choice portion, there are 70 questions, which you have 120 minutes to complete. And it's worth 70% of your final grade, which is more than the create performance task. So on the right is a example question from an AP Computer Science exam. So as you can see, it usually gives you a block of code, or some of the questions give you a block of code, and then it asks you to describe the result. So basically, it's just testing if you're proficient in understanding what this code is doing and how it will run through. So if you know anything about coding, you might realize that this coding is not any specific language. It is kind of a mix of Python and block coding, which is the coding that you usually do as a what you usually do when you start and you're trying to make games or something. Yeah, it's kind of a mix, and college, when you take this class, you'll understand, but it's personally, I don't think it's that hard to understand. Anyways, moving on, we're going to the create performance task. So like I said, this is a project for CSP, Computer Science Principles. This is a code-based project. So it has a couple requirements that you have to meet, which is you have to have an input and output, you have to have a list or an array, you have to have a student developed function that also includes sequencing, selection, and iteration. On top of this actual code in this actual project, you also have to complete and turn in a written portion about your code. You have to turn in a video of your code working, as well as a copy of everything that you wrote. So this is worth 30% of your final grade. So the written portion about the code is, in my opinion, fairly easy because College Board gives you questions that are the same every year, and they ask you to answer these questions about the code. Sometimes you have to upload snips or screenshots of your code into them as well. So, so somebody just asked how long this is. So for this task, you get the entire school year to take this, to make this. You aren't allowed to have any sort of teacher help, but most people usually start it after winter break is over. So you have the entire school year to do this, and it is usually turned in around the when it's usually required to be turned in when the actual in-person test is, the multiple choice portion is. But yes, you do have all school year to make it. So now we'll be moving on to AP Biology. So the statistics on this class are that 69% of test takers pass the exam, with 9.5% of test takers getting a score of 5. So this is one of the harder sciences because there is a lot of content that is kind of hard to understand, as well as it is a lot memory based. So somebody asked if you can take the same exam twice if you failed the first one. Yes, you can take the exam on its own, I'm pretty sure, by itself at the end of the year, but I wouldn't suggest taking the class again because you've already learned this content, and there's no use like wasting your schedule, space in your schedule to take the class again. But if you're taking it twice, you have to take it the following year. So once you take it 1 year, you have to wait another year if you would like to take it again. Okay, so back to biology. So on the right, you can see how the score distributions are similar to computer science principles, my bad. So it's also in the shape of a bell curve, which with most people testing with a 3, and less than 10% getting to a 5. So here are the contents of the AP Biology course. So Unit 1 is Chemistry of Life, then Cell Structure and Function, Cellular Energetics, Cell Communication and Cell Cycle, Heredity, Gene Expression and Regulation, Natural Selection, and Ecology. So in the AP Biology exam, there are a multiple choice portion as well as a free response, like psychology. The multiple choice has 63 questions and you have 90 minutes to complete. It's worth 50% of your final grade. So on the right is an example question. So as you can see, there are a lot of words in this question. And biology, this test in general, is very reading heavy. So taking this class, you might want to keep that in mind, that it is very reading heavy and you might want to be able to read fast to be able to complete the exam in time. So in the free response portion, there are 6 questions. If you go back in, if you look back in previous exams, you might see that there are actually 8. But after 2019, the testing policy changed a bit so for biology so that there are only 6 questions, but there's still 90 minutes to complete. So within these 6 questions, there are 2 long answers and 4 short answer questions. The 2 long answers typically have like 8 to 10 sub portions, and the short answer questions typically have like 3 to 5. So each question is usually a big topic about some sort of experiment or something that's happened. Or it's usually an experiment, and then it has multiple portions asking about this experiment. And sometimes it requires you to graph or interpret some kind of graph. So this is worth 50% of your final grade. So on the right is a showing of how this is, the AP Biology free response is graded. So the parentheses E is a portion of the a question. So it gives you a really long question, and then it asks you for a description and a prediction. So as you can see, these answers are pretty simple, but when you write them out, they're usually not this simple to write out. So when you have this, so the description, it's not very simple, but when you so when people take it, you usually write a lot, as much as you can, so that the grading is the people, my bad. You usually write a lot so that you can get as many points as you can from what you wrote. So for AP Biology, if you write something wrong, you don't necessarily get points off for it, but if it contradicts something that you said previously that was correct, then you don't get your point for that. So grading this exam is highly up to your grader, because they interpret how you see or how you do on, if they interpret if what you wrote is fitting of the requirements. Okay, so now moving on to Physics C Mechanics, which is a science. So in 2020, 84.3% of test takers passed the exam. 41.6% of test takers got a score of 5. So physics is considered pretty hard, maybe one of the hardest sciences out there. And the content is pretty complicated. But as you see on this, the chart on the right, it is very, it looks very different from the others. If it's so hard, then why isn't it like a very bell-curved shape? This is because the scores are scaled, meaning that a lower score can get you, a lower raw score can get you a higher AP score. So this means like, okay, I explained that badly, but this means like for other classes like biology, you may need to get around an 85 or higher, 85% or higher to get a score of 5. But on physics, you only need to get somewhere around a 55% to ensure you have a 5. This means that most people pass this exam with a really good score. Colleges also know this though, so they know that most people who get a 5 on the Physics C exam may not actually be proficient in what they want you to know. So this means if you're planning on majoring in something like engineering or something related to physics, there's a high chance that you will have to retake this course in college. Of course, this doesn't need to deter you from actually taking this class right now in high school, because if you do take this class and do well, then you may be able to put it on your resume or use it as information that you can use to get into like engineering programs or something. Also, it will prepare you for the college level physics class that you will have to take. So here are all the units. So unit 1 is kinematics, then Newton's laws of motion, work, energy, and power, systems of particles and linear momentum, rotation, oscillations, and then gravitation. The percentages on the right are just showing how much this is tested. So this exam has a multiple choice and a free response portion. The multiple choice has 35 questions in 45 minutes, and it's worth 50% of your final grade. So on the right is shown two questions that may show up in it, two types of questions that may show up in an exam. So first, there's like a portion where it gives you a situation, and then it asks you to show some sort of conceptual knowledge. So it's just asking with symbols and like if you know after some kind of change, what will happen. It's not necessarily asking you to do any sort of specific calculations. But the second one on the bottom shows it has numbers in it, which usually refers to calculations. So here you can see that the answer choices aren't all numbers though, because most of the time they keep in like variables and stuff. So for this physics exam, it's usually very math based. So if you're not doing very well in a math class, I suggest you take this later on, because AP Physics C, the C stands for calculus based, and that means it's very math heavy. On the exam though, it does give you an exam reference sheet with every single formula that you will need to know, but it doesn't tell you what these formulas are for. I'd also like to touch on how AP Physics C Mechanics, there's also an AP Physics C E&M, which you typically take after you take mechanics, because it has a lot of the knowledge that you get from mechanics. So E&M stands for electricity and magnetism, and it's also calculus based. There's also AP Physics 1 and AP Physics 2, which are just algebra based physics classes. Those two classes are arguably a little bit easier than AP Physics C. So if you are not ready for calculus or something like hard math like that, then you might want to go with AP Physics 1 or 2. So there's an FRQ portion on this exam as well, consisting of 3 questions, which you have 45 minutes to complete. And then you have 50%, it's worth 50% of your final grade. So if you remember from the previous slide, the multiple choice exam portion is 45 minutes, and so is the free response portion. That makes the whole exam only 90 minutes of time, which is like one of the shortest exams that you will have to take, or that you may take. So on the bottom is shown the grading system for the physics free response portion. So usually, because it's very math based, you have to show all your work. That's where you get your points from. So instead of having the readers like really interpret what you said, if you wrote down this formula, or if you if you put down this formula and or you wrote down this equation, or you got the correct answer, you get points. So typically, if you're planning on taking physics on the final exam on the free response portion, if you don't know what to put, then you can just write down an equation, and if it's right, you still get points for that. So finally, here's a comparison of the pass-fail rates for these 4 AP classes in a bar graph. So I mentioned all of these percentages before, and also this is for the 2020 exams. The pass rate is pretty high though. So That's good. And then here are a percentage of students who scored a 5. As I talked about previously, physics has a very high percentage because of how high it's scaled. And then finally, here's how many students did take this class each year or took the exam. So as you can see, psychology, because it's one of the easier classes and has pretty easy content, most people do take this, resulting in a high number of people who take this exam. Then it's biology, because most people, most high schools who have AP, or most high schools just require in general for you to take a science class, and most people choose biology because it is one of the basic, easiest to know about classes. And then the computer science class and the physics and mechanics class both have pretty low percentages, because physics is just really hard and people are always deterred by that. And then computer science is very like a niche topic. Thanks. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat box right now, or you can ask later. Oh, but I also want to touch on how in computer science, I'll go back to the next slide. Forgot to mention this. Oh, this was a while ago. But for computer science, during the multiple choice portion, there are also 8 questions that you have that are like double choice. That means you have to have 2, for this question, you have 2 answers that you have to choose like the best answer or something. And if you have to get both of these right to get the point for the class. Also, I also wanted to touch on how the percentages for getting a 5 on this is very low, because to get a 5, if you considering like if you got every single point from the create performance task, you would still only be allowed to miss about 5 questions or so to get a 5 on the final exam. So, but yeah, that's all I wanted to touch on for that. Oh, oops. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask right now. If you ask in Chinese, I will try my best to reply. So the average amount of AP classes a high school graduate takes. So this depends on what your high school offers, and also what their requirements are and what kind of student you really are. So like a proficient class, a proficient place to get a proficient amount of classes to take is like usually if you take about 8 classes every year, and you take like 3 of those are not core classes. So only if you take 4 classes every year, 4 core classes, these can all be AP classes. So you might take around like 12 or so AP classes, which is I think a pretty good amount. So all this data can be found on the College Board website. It might be a little hard to look through, but even if you just like search it on Google, the first thing that pops up is usually something related, is usually from College Board or the AP website, and you can just go on there to find whatever you need. So, okay, so the AP course usually affects your GPA, but the AP exam does not, because the AP exam score from 1 to 5 is, let me find that slide. The AP exam is scored from 1 to 5, but these scores always come out after your school year has ended. For example, this year it's coming out like around July 20th, so the AP exam results have not come out yet for this 2021 testing year. But in general, the little slide I showed for this, it just shows you the college grade equivalent of the class. So this final AP exam does not count in your GPA, but if your class does have any sort of like finals for your actual school grade, then it depends on how your teacher or your high school decides to do it. If you only take AP classes without the AP exam, I mean, taking an AP class in general does affect your GPA, but not taking the exam does not change anything about it. So AP exams or AP courses in general are not provided to middle school students. I'm pretty sure it's specifically only for high school students. I would say there's okay, so even if they were allowed in middle school, okay, so this person asked if it was allowed in middle school, if they could still take the AP class in high school for GPA boosting. So I would say, okay, I don't think it's possible to take it in middle school, but retaking AP exams doesn't really look good. So like a college might see that, oh, your GPA is really high, and then they realize that like you've been taking the same course over and over. They might not think very highly of that. And it's also kind of a waste of time, in my opinion, because you already know all this content and you want to show that you are willing to learn new things. I will see if I can share the presentation with you guys. Somebody asked if I could share the presentation. I'll see what I can do. If you would like, you can email me. I'll pull it back to the end slide. And if you email me, I will try to reply and send you the presentation with it. Yes, so AP courses, the weighted factor of AP courses usually depends on the school you go to. So for example, my school AP classes count as a 5.0 GPA weighted, while any honors classes count as 4.5. For another school I know of, honors classes count as 5.0, as well as AP classes also count as 5.0. So after you take the AP exam in high school and you pass, okay, so that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have to retake the same college class. So it's just possible that the college might be like, oh, I see that you got a 5 on your AP exam and you ended the class with an A. So in this class, I think you're proficient enough, so I will give you the credit for this class and you can just move on to the next level of course that they offer. But for some colleges, like I said, like any Ivy League, some really high-end colleges, they might not take this. It's harder for them to take this class, so they may require you to take it at the college instead. So AP classes offered in which grade level? So my school offered AP Psychology as a 9th grade course. It's just that not many people knew about it. It depends on how your high school operates, but usually if you want to take a class and it says something like there's a prerequisite or a certain grade, you can probably talk with your counselor about that and get that figured out. And they may see that, oh, you're a proficient student, so you're able to take this class in 9th grade. It's also a good idea to talk to that teacher if you can figure out which teacher teaches the class that you want to take. So for example, this year for AP Biology, honors chemistry is usually, or some sort of chemistry class is usually a prerequisite class, which is also taken in 10th grade. So to take it this year, I had to talk with my counselor along with the AP Biology teacher for that. So AP classes that I would recommend per year. In my opinion, it really depends on how much stuff you have going on at that point. So like I took 3 AP classes this year because I don't have much going on in extracurriculars really. And also this year, for extracurriculars due to like COVID and also like in general, I spend a lot of my time studying and doing school related things. But if you're a proficient student, I think that even if it's just like I don't have a very good grasp on this, but I think you can take almost, I would suggest taking 6 or so once you get to like junior or senior year or even more, while for freshman or sophomore year you can take like 2 or 3 or just 1, whatever fits with your schedule the most, I would say. So how the credits, somebody asked how the credits work. So assuming you mean college credit, the college can see on your transcript what classes you have taken, but also you have to send in your AP score, your exam score, to the college to see if they will accept the credit as a credit for college. So, okay, so personally, I won't be, somebody asked the difference between AP, the two Englishes. Personally, I won't be taking AP English or these AP Englishes due to other classes that I'll be taking for this, for English, but I'm not really sure. So you might want to go and look that up, but it seems like the first one, the language and composition, seems like it would be more of some kind of grammatical or technical portion of English, while literature and composition seems like it would be like analyzing texts or things that you need to read. So is the more AP classes you take, the better? I would say yes and also no. See, it's maybe better for like your college credits. They might show that your GPA, but you don't want to take so many AP classes that it like affects your mental health or you get like burnt out and you don't want to do any more school. So make sure you have a good balance of school, like hard classes like AP classes, but also like some easy AP classes maybe, and like some classes just like that you want to take for fun. So somebody asked the purpose of taking an AP exam. So the point of taking AP exam, not only can, I'm pretty sure you can write it on your resume, but also you take the exam, you can show it for credit, like college credit, of course, but also you take the exam and you can get a good grasp on how much of this knowledge you know. Also taking this exam, it can like, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Oh, it can also help you apply if you want like certain like programs in colleges. Like I know some colleges have like certain schools, like business schools or like engineering schools. So like doing well on an exam, you may be able to write that in. Also, taking the exam is kind of an experience that if you have a lot of friends in that exam, you guys can stress together and like work together and be stressed taking the exam. But anyways, so somebody asked about their child being in middle school and being able to take this AP course. So middle school does not offer AP, but if you would like to prepare your children to taking this class, I think it would be good to like just have them first be able to know what classes there are in like the high school and their requirements and how everything works there, but also have them like prep on maybe going and looking through some Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a great resource, by the way. They have great videos and you can look through that and see if you want to learn on your own for a bit before the AP class, so you can be prepared. But I wouldn't suggest doing this studying well in advance because you're probably going to forget the stuff that you learned later on. So like in middle school, you might if your child is in like 8th graders, or I assume that course selection is already over, but if your child is going into 9th grade and they would like to take like an AP class, see what AP classes your school offers, and like I would suggest psychology because it was my first AP class and it's not terribly hard. But yeah, check with your school and how it works there. So somebody asked, is getting a low grade in AP course worse than not taking it at all? I would say it depends on how low of a grade you're getting. So if you're getting like a B in an AP class, specifically like a high B, or at least like an 80, at least a B, I would say, then it's probably better than not taking it at all. Of course, if it's like weighted, like at my school, if there's a 5, if your grade is weighted as a 5 and you get a B, it would go down to a 4. So a 4 would still, your weighted GPA would still be like it would still not be like 3.5. It wouldn't be low, but your unweighted GPA, it would show that you did get a B. But again, colleges can see that if you were taking an AP class instead of a regular class, they can see that you were ambitious in planning and you were pushing yourself to learn more and also taking advantage of the class that has been offered to you. So, which is good, and that's what a lot of colleges say they're looking for, and that's what a lot of admission officers also look for. So, best to prepare for Physics C. So, okay, so this class was like really hard in my opinion. So, like the content is kind of hard to understand sometimes, but I would suggest firstly pay attention to your class once you get there, and also make sure you know what you're doing. Pre-calculus, yes, I think it's sufficient. For me at least, our teacher started this class. He started it. He taught it based on if nobody had any sort of calculus knowledge. So we learned all of the calculus from scratch. So yeah. Also, preparing for physics, it might be good to learn or look through some of the math beforehand, like the calculus, if you don't think you're sufficient enough in your calculus or whatever, because I feel like the calculus in this class is not that hard. But anyways, so you just need to, like, you could look to Khan Academy, like I said previously, and just see what they're covering, and then just learn the first couple basic units. So honor class is usually for our school, it's also called advanced level. So for us, like any sort of like AP English or AP History, it's not offered to to like 9th and 10th graders. So like this year I had to take honors level chemistry or advanced level chemistry, which is just it depends on how your school organizes it. It's just like there's also AP chemistry, but it's required to be taken in 11th or 12th grade for my school. So I had to take advanced level chemistry this year just to get that credit that I need. It's like the only science that is offered for my grade. Somebody asked, should a person take lots of AP classes if grades are unweighted? Well, okay, so usually I would say yes, because again, colleges can see what classes you're taking, and if they see that you're taking AP classes, then they will think better of you, I would say. Even if it is unweighted, yeah, I think the benefits outweigh the cons. Because the benefits outweigh the cons. I would suggest still taking them, but keep in mind how much you can handle and make sure you balance your workloads. Okay, so somebody asked if you need to self-learn AP classes or if the teachers will teach it. So, of course, if you take the class, the teacher will be teaching you this material. If you would like to self-learn it, like you don't have enough room schedule, you don't have enough room in your schedule, or you just don't have the class at your school, you can learn it on your own. I would suggest actually taking the class though, because like the teachers are there for a reason, and it's a lot more helpful when you can ask questions to somebody who is a professional in that subject area. Somebody asked if private schools offer AP classes like in public schools. This really depends on your schools. Like I said, like my school doesn't offer all of these APs. Like they don't offer a lot of these languages, but you're gonna have to check in with your school on its own like that. Personally, I haven't been to private school, so I don't actually know how it's like. So somebody also asked the difference between taking an AP course in school and taking in a program outside school. Okay, so this is a good question. It's one that I can answer, obviously. But there really is no difference besides the fact that your GPA may be changing. So for example, I took like an AP, because my school doesn't offer AP Chinese, I took a little course outside of school, learning it and like preparing for it. So as long as you think, or as long as the outside program is like proficient and like very good at teaching, then I would say it shouldn't affect it. I think an outside program, it probably usually costs money, but if you're really like have no room in your schedule, or your school does not offer this class, like I said, then it's great to take an outside program for this. Yeah. So okay, so somebody asked the typical homework load for taking AP Physics C. Okay, so this depends a lot on your teacher and how they work. But for me, our teacher was very like independent learning based. So they were like, oh, you need to learn. He like taught in class, and then you could do practices on your own. So I would say, okay, so sometimes I like didn't study enough, but I would say a typical workload. I'm not very good at like estimating hours per day or per week, but considering like if you decided that you wanted to go over material and then do practices, and then if you just wanted to go over material and do practices, or maybe study for a test, I would say like a couple hours if you're able to do that. Because for me, like the physics questions, like understanding it in class it's pretty self-explanatory, because like your teacher is explaining it to you and you're like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. But of course, doing it outside of class, it's a little bit harder because you don't have somebody guiding you through, so it may take a little bit longer to do questions. So that's all of the questions that we have so far, and also good timing because it's 7:59, so it's basically the end. If I didn't address your question, or if you have something later, let me scroll to the bottom. This is taking a second. Okay, you can email me here. Also, if you would like this presentation, feel free to email me, and I'll see if I can get it to you.